Namaskar. We are back again with another J Sai Deepak video. Uh, this time it is my favorite topic. It is Gandhi rendered Hindu society defenseless and impotent. I see a lot of literature of the Indian independence, and I consume a lot of literature from that area. And it is something that I'm very interested in. Right now, I'm reading a book called Indian Summer, which is also about all of those events which eventually led to the Indian independence. Anyway, let's not waste a lot of time and start the video. I'll give link to the original video in the description. Go and check it out. Give it a thumbs up. Come back and react with me. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Let's start.
You talk about Gandhi towards the end in your book. My question is simply this: that you say how in 1917 in the session, the Congress session, he was addressed simply as MK Gandhi, right? And about a year later, in 1918, suddenly he's hailed as a Mahatma. So this transition was swift. It happened very quickly. And for somebody who came in so late into the freedom struggle, the man's elevation to a Mahatma, the status of a saint, a Mahatma, was, I mean, now when you look at it,
Not just to the status of Mahatma, to the status of someone who single-handedly brought about the Indian freedom is very astonishing.
does sound dubious. And my question is also,
Dubious.
so how did people like Patel, for example, how were they so smitten by Gandhi? What was it about this man, in your personal opinion, that made him one? And then finally, two things. What do you think was the most damaging thing done by him? And well, if you want to give him some credit, the most profitable thing or thing that he did by which India profited the most?
See, I think a few months ago, I had the benefit of interacting with an audience in Bengaluru, and I specifically said that Gandhi is a huge mixed bag. Okay.
Yes.
If you wish to agree with him on a few things, you're bound to find something which you can agree with him on. And there are several disagreeable elements to it. But
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
problematic aspect of his legacy is the
But let's not go to that extreme. इतना भी खराब नहीं थे. But you know what I'm trying to say.
how do I call it? He effectively rendered the Hindu society defenseless, impotent, and almost incapable of standing up for itself. And those who did were coerced or guilt-tripped into laying down arms. Okay, that's where the balance sheet, according to me, reads red, seriously red, because to draw a line from the Avengers, the ledger is dripping with red, it's gushing red. Okay, because the man did not even think that we were entitled to the right to self-defense, the most fundamental of rights. Okay, that's the problem. But in terms of his elevation to the stature of Mahatma, my analysis based on the literature has been that he rode on the Khilafat movement, and therefore he was the first Hindu-Muslim leader of Bharat.
Right.
And there obviously was a certain degree of personal charisma, no doubting it. Okay. And after Tilak's passing in 1920, literally there was a huge vacuum.
Right.
And he had managed to galvanize the country through the Khilafat movement, but had significantly also sown the seeds for the future partition. Okay. And therefore, there is an element of vacuum coupled with all the optics that went with being the Mahatma. Think of, let's say, the India Against Corruption movement of 2011 onwards, which gave us the gift that is called Arvind Kejriwal. Okay. And if he had continued with this...
I don't know why people start laughing just when they hear the name Arvind Kejriwal. What is it? What do you guys think? Please tell me in the comments.
Facade without revealing his true colors, don't you think Arvind Kejriwal would have actually amassed a certain degree of standing in the country, which he had managed to?
Yes.
Right? Thanks to the support of his now exiled guru, right?
Yes.
And therefore, I'm not saying that Gandhi was all facade. I'm not saying that. I'm not making that statement. I'm clearly saying that he was a very shrewd politician, and he also had deep convictions. Some of them were deeply flawed, and some of them were deeply valued. Okay. So, for instance, his insistence on, or let's say his intransigent position with respect to Ambedkar, when Ambedkar wanted separate electorates for the Dalits altogether. I would certainly give Gandhi the credit for standing his ground, because that would have seen a serious fissure in the Hindu society and would have effectively ensured that we were offering an entire swath of population on the platter for facilitization. right?
Correct.
That's one. Therefore, apart from his intellectual defense of dharma in his debates with Ambedkar, okay, position that I think was good, and he also believed that he was a passionate Hindu, a deeply devout Hindu. But there are some seriously problematic aspects, some speakable and some unspeakable. The unspeakable
Correct.
portions, leave it out. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
I would say, independent of that, as a public figure, I think the sense of responsibility that the position that you have and the influence that you wield, if not wielded responsibly, could come at the expense of loss of life for an entire community. That is something that you must always bear in mind. Okay.
Very true.
So, notwithstanding my agreement with him on certain aspects,
I don't think he was keeping that in mind. Maybe he was keeping that in mind. We do not know what he was thinking. But I kind of feel, based on his actions, that his whole appeal to the people, his whole actions, were more grounded in the fact that he wanted to appease a certain community than to keep in mind that his actions could lead to certain fissures, which would then lead to partition later on. But that is what I feel based on his actions.
of dharma, when I realized that he did not do enough. See, here's the
Take Khilafat movement, for example. There was no need for a Khilafat movement, and actually the name itself was kind of transformed to make it look like that it was किसी की खिलाफत कर रहे हैं हम. Even though it was about the caliphate. Caliphate is the emperor of, like, the emperor is not the kind word, because it has some, the word caliphate has some religious connotations. So it was basically the caliphate of Turkey, for which they were trying to fight in India, because he wanted to appease the Muslim community and wanted to give out this symbolism to the British कि हम दोनों एक साथ मिलके एक दूसरे के causes के लिए हम fight कर सकते हैं. So that was the message he was trying to give, supposedly. But of course it had some like repercussions, and they were very conceivable repercussions. But I don't know how he managed to overlook those, considering he was a very intelligent guy. So whether that was deliberate or not, I don't know, but it was completely foreseeable.
point. During the Boer War, he was happily recruiting for the British in South Africa.
For the British, exactly.
And in 1919, he was happily asking people to, let's say, support the recruitment,
Westward.
right?
The left wing, which continuously tries to oppose Savarkar for his alleged recruitment of the people into the British Army for the Second World War, conveniently forget that Gandhi did the same during the First World War. So if one is bad, how is the other one good?
Yeah.
But when it came to their own defense, he's telling them not to. After the other side has revealed its card that it's happy to render this entire country bloody. What do you make of it then? I wish so. In 1920s itself, members of the Congress, see, the man was born in 1869, then you're looking at 31 plus 20, he was 51 years old. That's it. Not that too old for a politician, even by those standards.
Correct, correct.
His contemporaries were wishing his imprisonment or his retirement from politics in the Congress. Saying we wish he leaves the country or he does something else, because the Khilafat dragon is so difficult to ride and he has really created trouble, so much so that the leaders of the Khilafat movement, such as the Ali brothers, were openly speaking of seeking help of the Afghans to invade India to dislodge the British, as if we are idiots to not understand that the attempt is actually to revive the Islamic State.
Correct, correct, correct.
Right? Had it not been for the staunch opposition of Lala Lajpat Rai or Madan Mohan Malviya, I don't know what Gandhi would have done. I really don't know. Right? So while it seems as if he had a fantastic ability to pull the audience together, to actually create a unified movement and all of that, assuming for a moment that I give him 100% credit for the ability to...
The clown at a circus has the same ability. Now, I'm not equating anything, okay? Don't be commenting anything. I'm just saying, okay, just because you have the ability to gather the crowd, to mobilize the masses, doesn't mean you have the intellectual capacity to then use that mobilization to your advantage. There are two ways to handle a situation, or to handle a critical situation. First, you gather all the facts. You have the mental capacity to gather all the facts. But then you should have a strategic mind to in order to be able to use those facts to your advantage. Now, if both these facets come together, then only you have a successful operation. Now, for a freedom movement, you need masses, you need contribution from the masses, and you need that contribution in a meaningful manner. Uh, just because you are able to mobilize people doesn't mean you also have the ability to use that mobilization in a meaningful manner. तो गांधी को दोनों चीज़ की क्रेडिट नहीं मिल सकती ना, गांधी को मोबिलाइजेशन की ही क्रेडिट मिलती है, मिलनी चाहिए, बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली सब चीज़ की मिलती है.
To galvanize the people. To what end? What did he do next with that?
Correct.
Right? Any number of people. So, for instance, Tilak also galvanized people. Annie Besant also galvanized people. The Home Rule movement, by the way, was such a terror for the British that had it not been for Tilak's untimely demise, he would have done a vastly superior job. Okay? Along with Annie Besant, along with the support of revolutionaries, he was doing a fantastic job. Okay? So when people give credit to Gandhi for having galvanized people, I'd say just go a step behind or a step back and ask yourself, has nobody else before him done that? Tilak did it. In fact, Gandhi inherited a better unified society thanks to Tilak's efforts, because the home rule leagues which were created across the country were responsible for galvanizing the community. And you go back a step further, you had the Swadeshi movement and the boycott movement, which were all the consequence of the partition of Bengal. The credit for the galvanization must start from the partition of Bengal, because that revived the nationalistic spirit significantly.
True.
Okay. So from 1906 until 1917, you had constant movements. And this man became a huge figure only in 1917.
True.
Right? So when you say, no, this man had inherited a caste-ridden, heavily divided society, sorry, don't project your stupidity onto the past, because the facts are different. No caste issue came in the way of the galvanization of the Hindu community at large when it came to the Swadeshi movement or the boycott movement or the Home Rule movement. There is no proof to this effect. So I believe that if Tilak had continued, Gandhi would have been nipped in the bud.
So sad that I mean, history can sometimes betray you, right? I mean, the fact that he died at the time that he did.
But to answer the last part of your question, people like Patel also have to be reassessed and reevaluated.
Okay.
In the context of the treatment of the revolutionaries and their position with respect to the revolutionaries. If his position was no different from that of Gandhi, why is Patel being given a free pass? Because you pit him against Nehru. That's why.
That's true. That's very true.
Comparison or your benchmark is Nehru, and therefore you feel that Patel is better because China wouldn't have happened, Kashmir wouldn't have happened. These are our list of laundry defects with respect to Nehru, right?
Correct.
But you don't ask what was his position then. And by the time Patel entered the picture, or even his elder brother had entered the picture, Gandhi had become a behemoth thanks to the position vacated by Tilak, right? Correct. It's very difficult to actually say no to that person, because while he gives the facade of democracy, he doesn't need to be democratic.
It's like the Communist Party today.
Exactly. So the facade of democracy is created because he says, you keep saying whatever you want, I will listen to you, so you will be given what is known as the right of hearing, but I have the right of veto where I don't need to hear anything, I can discard everything. So I will retain the optics of democracy, but what I run is an autocracy, period.
Beautiful. Correct. So you're saying that the very fact that Patel had or held Gandhi in such esteem need not be something that one needs to wonder at, because Patel himself had some serious issues with respect
to which I will deal with in the third book.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it.
So many interesting facets that we delve into. We re-evaluated our position with respect to Patel, because now we see that we hold Patel in such high respect because he is constantly pitted against Nehru, and then that is the benchmark. But I would say that maybe it is like, if everyone was influenced by Gandhian principles, then it is also possible that his immediate counterparts were also influenced to some degree. So we just have to find the balance जहाँ पे हम उनकी contributions को और उनकी shortcomings को weigh करें, and we find out कि okay, maybe there were some shortcomings, but the contributions the contribution way surpass their shortcomings. So it is okay, because everyone is bound to make some mistakes, and it is easier to point out mistakes in hindsight. अभी हम यहाँ पे बैठ करके बोल सकते हैं कि okay, they made a lot of mistakes, but if we were in that situation, what would we have done? We don't know. So take that into perspective as well. But of course, the actions have to be criticized, action have to be evaluated, so that we do not make the same kind of mistakes in future. But some actions cannot be forgiven or cannot be forgotten, and should be held liable, like the action of Khilafat movement by Mahatma Gandhi. This reminds me that someone commented, please don't address him as Mahatma, just call him Gandhi. So the actions of Gandhi in regards to Khilafat movement have to be evaluated, and this constant sense of appeasement, which then later found its way into the constitution, along with certain other Gandhian principles, and because of which we are still suffering to this very day. So all of these things have to be taken into consideration. Also, with this, I'd like to end this video. Thank you for being here till the very end. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.